Hey everyone, how's it going? And pretty much this is gonna be kind of mini reviews of comics, and pretty much what this is me kind of just doing a quick version of comics that I want to talk about more later, but you know, here it is. The comics I'm going to talk about are X-Men, Age of Apocalypse Volume 1, and Identity War. So, let's begin. Now, first off is obviously Age of Apocalypse Volume 1. Now, Age of Apocalypse Volume 1 pretty much is the big part of Apocalypse, and pretty much tells you that in this world, Charles Xavier did not make the X-Men. He had nothing to do with it. In this case, it was Eric or Max, if you want to go by his real name, who created the X-Men. And what happened is that Charles died, and this is pretty much what happens if he wasn't there to help, the X-Men bring humanity to peace, or at least decently. And pretty much we see how this X-Men works. They're pretty good at what they do. They have more issues because they don't really have what Charles had. And Magneto's X-Men are pretty good people. They're trying to help each other out. We see more of them outside of the whole big action, fighting stuff. Like we see Magneto in his relationship with Rogue, who he is actually with, and they have a child with. We see his stuff with his son and daughter, Pietro and Wanda, and yeah, I know the whole thing, but we kind of see how the team works with one another. It's pretty good. The one thing I will say is kind of interesting is the whole thing with Rogue Magneto, because I'm like, how did that work? They have a kid, and they're not, and they never really talk about that. But yeah, they have that whole thing, and pretty much, as for the other groups, because there are other groups in here, the other groups are pretty good. They pretty much, they play on their own type of style. We have Nightcrawler, who is pretty much his story. I really enjoy Nightcrawler's stories and stuff. He's a little bit more, stealth and stuff. And they pretty much show what Nightcrawler would be like if he wasn't raised the way he was. And kind of showing that, yeah, if Charles Xavier wasn't around, a lot of these guys would be screwed, because these characters, if Charles was not there to kind of try to bring peace to mutants and humanity, these characters would be freaking these guys would do whatever it takes to win. What Nightcrawler does in the series or in the storyline is pretty freaking crazy. He would do things that the other Kirk would be just like, what the hell? No. Same thing goes for Wolverine, who is actually with Jean, and he's actually called Weapon X. And pretty much with him is that his hand is cut off. He only has one hand, and it's caused by a Cyclops, who is kind of the son of Mr. Sinister. Because instead of Charles raising him, it was Mr. Sinister, the Essex. And his brother is pretty much like the bratty psycho who is just like, no, I'm better than him. I should be in charge. Damn it, you motherfuckers. Screw you, yes. And that's pretty much Havoc in a nutshell, of him just being like, my brother's he constantly talks about how he's better than his brother and how he's going to freaking screw him over and how he's going to prove that he is the best. And then we have Beast, who is, pretty much is the introduction of Dark Beast. And pretty much Dark Beast is disturbed as all hell. He is messed up. But yeah, as for the artwork kind of ranges to being very good to very bad. Kind of varies on which part of the story you're following. But yeah, it's pretty good, and I'd recommend checking this out, and I will talk more about this at some point. Then we have Identity Wars, which is kind of a Marvel, which is one of Marvel's mini stories and stuff, and pretty much it focuses on the three main characters, Spider-Man, Hulk, and Deadpool, and pretty much what's happened is that these guys have been sent to another universe where at first it looks it looks like paradise. The characters are encountering these people, and pretty much they're kind of wondering what like how perfect this world is, because like they seem to be very happy. Spider-Man meets a counterpart who is a well-respected hero. Um, we have Hulk, who hasn't met his counterpart, but seems to be unable to turn into the Hulk, so it's just Bruce Banner, and he's really happy about that. And then we have Wade Wilson, who meets someone who he considers being his new best pal. And there's some really funny, and there actually was a funny twist with Deadpool too. But they all have twists, but Deadpool I think was kind of the funniest. Um, and yeah, like it's pretty good. It's really nice to see how these robots work, and they're kind of proto versions, or at least kind of alludes to some stuff that was going on that would happen later on in the multiverse related stuff. Like Spider-Man kind of has a little Spider-Verse thing. This kind of was a proto version of that, and I'll get more into that later once I dive into the big twist at some point. And then we have Wade, which is kind of like not exact. Obviously, it's not alluding to Deadpool Core, since Deadpool Core was kind of a thing at the time, but still, it was kind of like a mini version of the whole Deadpool starting to fight, meet his counterparts and kind of take them on at some points. But yeah, but that's all I gotta say about this story for right now. And I have to say they're really good stories. I will talk about more about them later, but for right now, see ya.